So he went into the cave, started winding his way back further than he'd ever been before, and he found markings on the wall that had previously been covered by water. The markings were a candy cane shape, an eyeball, and some flowing lines over the eyeball. He turned around and he looked where the eyeball was facing, and right up against the wall, he found a crack. So he reached down into the crack and started digging and digging out clay, digging out mud, and he eventually found some wood that was buried there. Welcome to Hidden Treasures, where we explore lost treasures, found treasures, unexplained mysteries, and just all-around interesting stories. Today we're exploring the story of the old Ozark treasure cave in Sulphur Springs, Arkansas. A group of Spanish conquistadors had come up from Mexico and were exploring the Ozark Mountains in northern Arkansas and southern Missouri area. They were looking for the 7 cities of gold. Along the way, they were stealing riches from the Native Americans, and they had accumulated so much that they had several horses and donkeys all covered with silver and gold and all kinds of treasures. They were having such a good time stealing all of these treasures from the natives and exploring the area that they didn't get out of there and get back to the south before winter hit. There was a huge storm that came in and it started to snow. They lost a few of their horses, they lost a few of their mules, and they knew that they had to do something with this treasure. They were just going to have to leave it behind. They found a cave in the Ozark Mountains, and they made a map on parchment paper, and they carved a map in that location in a sandstone rock. After they hid the treasure, they started heading back south. Of course, they had upset the natives in the area who were right on their tail. It was now winter, it was cold. In order to stay warm, they had to have a fire going. The natives easily spotted the smoke from their fire, knew where they were, surrounded them, and killed almost all of them. Obviously, at least one person made it out, otherwise we wouldn't have the story about the treasure in the cave. That's the story of how the treasure actually got into the cave. The current owner, Paul Linscott, claims to be in possession of the carved sandstone map. So he goes exploring through this cave all the time, trying to find these treasures. The problem with the cave is that there are tons of little inlets and outlets all through this cave, and there are springs, so a lot of it is underwater most of the time. One year there was a drought, and Linscott knew that this year he was going to be able to go further and deeper into the cave than he had ever been before. So he went into the cave, started winding his way back further than he'd ever been before, and he found markings on the wall that had previously been covered by water. The markings were a candy cane shape, an eyeball, and some flowing lines over the eyeball. He interpreted this as turn around and look under the water. So that's exactly what he did. He turned around and he looked where the eyeball was facing, and right up against the wall, he found a crack. So he went over, looked inside the crack, and found that there was some water down there. So he reached down into the crack and started digging and digging out clay, digging out mud, and he eventually found some wood that was buried there. This wood was stuck in there pretty deep, and he was digging and trying to get it out, but at the same time, it started to rain. Obviously, when the rain starts coming down, it starts pouring into the cave, going down into those lower sections. Remember, he was only there because this year it was a drought and he was able to get to that location because it wasn't covered with water. Now it started pouring down rain outside, water was flowing in, and he had to get out of there or he was going to drown. Now that area is again covered up with water and they can't get back to it and they can't get the treasure out. So the owner of the cave has the sandstone map, has markings on the wall, has a crack in the cave where there's wood buried, and he just can't get to it. We'll keep track of this and see what happens, but as it stands right now, that treasure is in a cave, buried under some wood, under some water, and nobody can get to it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave comments.